It's still incredibly hard to understand why anybody would vote for Donald Trump in any election anywhere in the world which counts itself as being democratic. Make America great again. That's the claim. Make America great again. MAGA, 4 fat letters on a big red hat, which millions of people in the United States wear with pride. All in honor, like a religious, almost honor, worship of a man who is a proven liar, a thief, a cheat and bilker, a shyster, to use the American word for it, huckster, it's another good one, fraudster, many times over, an insurrectionist and seditionist, basically a traitor, a thief, and a sex offender. Why vote for such a man? How does such a man win the right even to stand for election? How do you get to become candidate? Surely there are laws which forbid such a thing to happen. In fact, I believe there are. It's just that nobody seems to have cared to apply them. That from the start, Mr. Trump, actually, it doesn't matter what your politics are, you're not fit to stand for election. He doesn't even, he isn't even a politician, for pity's sake. He's not gone through the political mill the way all the other candidates have, the way Harris, Biden, Walz had done. He hadn't achieved anything in politics whatsoever. In fact, as a businessman, he's a rotten, bloody businessman. 6 bankruptcies, I think, to his name. He's bankrupted casinos. How do you bankrupt a casino? And yet, this man wants to be president and fought to be president and has become president. And it's not just that he's all those things. It's not just that he's a criminal and a bad businessman. That would be bad enough. That should be enough to condemn him. But he's also an outright stone cold fascist. I mean, what does he want for the USA that is that different from what Adolf Hitler wanted for Germany, or what Mussolini wanted for Italy? I mean, Hitler being the most notorious example of a fascist dictator, came to power in 1933 in very similar circumstances to the way Trump has become president in 2024, or indeed way back in 2016. You only have to read the histories to see the parallels. And the parallels go deeper, of course, because, of course, it's not just how he came to power, it's what he wants to do with his power. This is the awful thing. I mean, I'm talking to you now more or less at the same time, or I think possibly a little while after he's given his inaugural speech. I didn't hear it. I'm doing this rather than watch that man. Because if I was watching him instead of doing what I'm doing now, I'm not sure my television would survive the experience. I'm not sure I would. I've had one stroke. I don't want another. Because he makes me so angry. because he is a stone cold, outright fascist. And what he wants for the United States, what he wants for the world, you read the histories of Nazism and you see it replaying in a different format, but it's still the same story. And we start with his own people. What did Hitler do with the Jews? He wanted to get rid of them, round them up, ship them out. Palestine. Trump wants to ship his immigrants back to where they came from, ostensibly. Mexico, Haiti, wherever they came from. But he can't do it all in one great big lump. He wants to. He wants to get rid of them all now. But how's he going to do it? Hitler couldn't do it. So he had to do something. So he built camps for them, which is exactly what Trump is planning to do in the deserts of Texas. Build camps for the immigrants. And who constitutes an immigrant? Now, to Hitler, it was all the Jews. All of them. Every single Jew. Didn't matter what class they were, what profession they were. Nothing else about them mattered, just that they were Jewish. Any denomination of Jew, Orthodox, ultra-Orthodox, liberal, non-observing, whatever. If they were Jews, they go. And that's what you have with Latinos and Hispanics. Immigrants, he calls them. People who come from a Spanish-speaking country, or who are descended from people who came from Spanish-speaking countries. They're all immigrants. They don't belong here. They've got to go. Doesn't matter who they are, what they are. It doesn't even matter that they are actually citizens of the United States any more than it mattered to Hitler that he was talking about Jews who were citizens of Germany. They had to go. Along with the Romanis and along with the disabled, they all had to go. He's not just looking at Jews now. He's had a whole class of his followers who say that blacks don't belong in the United States. That's so incredibly stupid. There is no response to it. That's one thing. Then there's women. Hitler thought of women as being the bearers of Germany's future. He looked for those women who could, create the next generation and all further generations of perfect human beings. So he treated them like, more or less like, sort of precious livestock. That was bad. Very bad. But what Trump is doing and his followers are doing is worse. He's followed not in the line of Hitler's National Socialist philosophy. He's following the Taliban line that women are not even second-class citizens or third-class citizens. They're not even human. They're just animals. They're there to be used. They're there to be kept. They're there for one purpose only, to look after men and to bear their children. And that's it. That's all that's wanted from them. And God help them if they want anything else for themselves. A woman who falls pregnant must, under all circumstances and every circumstance, have a baby. And if they can't, if they're ill, because having that baby makes them ill, they're not allowed to get rid of it, because abortion is wrong. But if a man wants to have sex with them, he's entitled to have sex with them. A wife is the property of a husband to use as he will. So it doesn't matter what happens to that woman. If he wants to make her pregnant, she will. She will fall pregnant, and there's nothing she can do about it. And if she doesn't want that child because she's ill, there's nothing she can do about it, because of all those states where abortion is now illegal. I mean, you have in Georgia the whole proposition that if you are having a child through rape, you must sign an affidavit naming your rapist before you can have the abortion. What the hell goes on there? You're putting women in danger twice because you have this attitude towards women that they are basically no better than cattle. In fact, you treat cattle with more consideration. That's women. And then there's money. His tariff policy. It's punishing other nations for daring to behave like capitalist nations, for daring to trade on the best terms that they can possibly get for themselves, as if the United States ever did anything ever differently. Trump sees them as needing to be punished for daring to compete in a global economy which is founded on competition. So how does he widen that threat? If I can't compete with these countries, I'll accuse them of stealing from the USA, from taking what does not belong to them, and I will take it back. Canada, stealing from the USA. Can't have that. Make it into the 51st state. Panama, stolen from us by China. Can't have that. We'll take it back. Mexico, sending us all these vile criminals, chucking all their dirt at us. We're going to throw it right back. Greenland. If we let Greenland to Denmark, Russia will just use it as a stepping stone to get to us. So we better get it. It's got to be ours. So what you're going to have with states, if Trump has his way, is what happened with Sudetenland and Czechoslovakia and Poland and France and Denmark and Holland, and damn near almost happened to the British Isles. And we all know where all of this led to a huge war in which millions upon millions upon millions of people died. Numberless of them being perfectly innocent people who've done no other crime, committed no other crime than just not being German and not living in Germany. And this is what Trump has in mind for Mexico and for Canada and for Greenland and for Panama. And that's even before he was inaugurated. And then there's the other thing, of course, what he's going to do is political enemies, his political enemies. In other words, anybody who criticizes him, anybody who has anything to say about him, is to go to prison. And that includes people who are part of the democratic process of which he has used to become the president. People who oppose him politically, legally, ethically, morally, perfectly entitled, constitutionally well within their rights to do everything they've done. And he has said they've got to go to prison. They deserve to be punished. And this is the man who is now, as I speak, is now enthroned in the Oval Office as leader, I quote, of the free world, unquote. he does this all on the back of all these poor, ignorant, stupid, ill-educated clods whom the US educational system has allowed to turn into idiots who back him so completely. They worship him. They won't hear a word said against him. Everything he says is gold. Everything he does is gold, even when they can't tell you what he means by what he says, even when they can't tell you what he's actually done, even when they are faced with the contradictions in what he says and they hear how contradictory he is, they accept it all. And they remind me so much of the people who were with Jim Jones the day he decided they should all die. And they didn't turn their back on him. They didn't walk away from Jim Jones. They said, yes, the great leader is telling us we should die. We'll die. And that is such a disaster for the world that these people are creating and that the Trump is creating. And we're falling for it ourselves in this country, in England, because we have a man who is winning popularity. His name is Nigel Farage. He has finally won himself a seat in Parliament after years and years of trying. He was responsible for Brexit, which has turned out to be a disaster for all the reasons we said it would be at the time. So many of us said it would be at the time. And he gloated then when the vote was, Brexit had been cast. The big slogan was, we won, you lost, get over it. And guess what? That is what so many Americans are saying now. We won, you lost, get over it. That's more or less word for word what they say over and over again. And I think they got it from our Farage. Because he's a tick on Donald Trump's skin, sucking Trump's blood. But Trump doesn't notice it because Trump thinks that Farage is his friend. And Farage behaves like Trump's friend, goes to Mar-a-Lago, goes to meet with him, goes to his rallies and supports him. And he's a British politician and he comes into Parliament and he starts telling Parliament as a British MP representing a British constituency what Donald Trump thinks of British policy. As if we should give a damn. And the idea that one day Farage might just win enough popularity to become another Donald Trump, a British Donald Trump, to the same effect as Donald Trump, is really scary. And I think that is one of the reasons why what is happening with Donald Trump is so important to us here in Great Britain. What gives us a right to talk about it. We saw it before with Hitler. We're seeing it again with Donald Trump. We sure as hell don't want to see it a third time with Nigel Farage. I think I'm done for the night. This is really... I've got to do something else now. I just feel like I've eaten dirt. Good night.